Hello everyone, welcome to Science with Susmita. Today I take up the topic of respiration under the chapter Life Processes of Class 10 Science NCERT. We have discussed nutrition in organisms in the previous video. The food material taken in during the process of nutrition is used in cells to provide energy for various life processes. Diverse organisms do this in different ways. Some use oxygen to break down glucose completely into carbon dioxide and water. Some use other pathways that do not involve oxygen. In all cases, the first step is the breakdown of glucose, which is a 6-carbon molecule, into a 3-carbon molecule, that is pyruvate or pyruvic acid. This process takes place in the cytoplasm. Further, the pyruvate may be converted into ethanol or carbon dioxide. This process takes place in yeast during fermentation. Since this process takes place in absence of oxygen or in absence of air, it is called anaerobic respiration. Breakdown of pyruvate using oxygen takes place in the mitochondria. Sounds very difficult? Okay, it will be very easy. Let us go step by step. The moment we hear the word respiration, what comes into our mind? I'm sure the only thing that comes into your mind is breathing. Breathing is just a mechanical process. It is the process by which oxygen enters the lungs from the air outside and carbon dioxide is removed from the lungs into the environment. Just as in case of nutrition, the first step is ingestion of food. Similarly, in case of respiration, the first step is breathing. So now tell me, is breathing and respiration the same? Not at all. Respiration is a chemical process where breathing is a simple mechanical process. Respiration, it may be aerobic or anaerobic. In aerobic respiration, we need oxygen. And how we get this oxygen? It is by the process of inhalation during breathing. And when we exhale, we take out carbon dioxide and water. So breathing and respiration are, we can say, they work together, but the processes are definitely different. Breathing involves inhalation and exhalation. Breathing in or inhalation. During this process, the ribs swing upward and outwards, and the diaphragm moves downward and flatten. As a result of this, the chest cavity becomes larger and air can come in. Breathing out or exhalation. In this process, the ribs return to original position, diaphragm relaxes and arches upward. The process of breathing can be compared with filling of air inside a balloon. You can see this diagram and you can understand how the diaphragm goes downwards and the lungs swell, take in air, that is inhalation, and again the diaphragm moves back to its position and so the lungs release air outside and so that is exhalation. Remember, when we inhale air rich in oxygen, whereas when we exhale air rich in carbon dioxide. Now let us understand the chemical process that takes place during respiration. Respiration is the process by which food is burnt in the cells of the body with the help of oxygen to release energy. It takes place in the mitochondria of the cells. The energy released during respiration is used to make ATP molecules, that is adenosine triphosphate, from ADP, that is adenosine diphosphate molecules, and inorganic phosphate. The reaction is shown in this slide. Hence, energy produced during respiration is stored in the cells in the form of ATP molecules. When the cells need energy, these ATP molecules are broken down in the presence of water to form ADP, and energy is released. Respiration is basically of two types: aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. During aerobic respiration, glucose is oxidized with the help of atmospheric oxygen. Here, glucose releases carbon dioxide, water, and about 38 ATP molecules. Whereas in anaerobic respiration, partial oxidation of organic food happens in the absence of atmospheric oxygen. Due to partial breakdown, the amount of energy released during anaerobic respiration is much less than that of aerobic respiration. At the same time, we do not get water as a product, but ethanol and carbon dioxide are released as a product of anaerobic respiration. In the process of respiration, glucose, which is a 6-carbon molecule, breaks down into pyruvate or pyruvic acid, which is a 3-carbon molecule. The oxidation of glucose to pyruvate is called glycolysis. It occurs in the cytoplasm of a cell and not in the mitochondria. The oxidation of glucose to pyruvic acid does not require oxygen. One molecule of glucose on glycolysis produces 2 molecules of pyruvic acid. So, we must remember the first step, that is the breakdown of glucose, which is a 6-carbon atom compound, into a 3-carbon atom compound pyruvic acid, takes place in the cytoplasm in case of all organism, whether it is aerobic or anaerobic. The fate of pyruvic acid formed during respiration depends on whether oxygen is present in the cell or not. If oxygen is present in the cells, the pyruvate is completely oxidized to carbon dioxide and water with the release of a large amount of energy in the form of ATP. Now, if there is no oxygen present, then in that case, pyruvate is converted either to ethanol and carbon dioxide or to lactic acid, depending on whether such a process is taking place in a plant cell or animal cell. Also remember, much less energy is released in case of anaerobic respiration. To summarize, we can say that in the presence of oxygen, pyruvic acid formed from glucose in the cytoplasm is further broken down in the mitochondria, and the end products are carbon dioxide, water, and a large amount of energy. This happens in the case of aerobic organisms. If oxygen is absent, like in the case of yeast, then glucose, which was broken down into pyruvate in the cytoplasm, is further broken down from pyruvate to ethanol and a small amount of energy. Remember, this happens in cytoplasm only. That means in case of anaerobes, both the processes, breakdown of glucose to pyruvic acid and pyruvic acid to ethanol and carbon dioxide and energy, all takes place in the cytoplasm itself. There may be a third case where in our muscles anaerobic respiration takes place. This happens due to lack of oxygen in our muscle cells, and the muscles try to undergo anaerobic respiration. The end products are lactic acid and energy. Since the aerobic respiration pathways depends on oxygen, aerobic organisms need to ensure that there is sufficient intake of oxygen. We have seen that plants exchange gases through stomata, and the large intercellular spaces ensure that all cells are in contact with air. Carbon dioxide and oxygen are exchanged by the process of diffusion in case of plants. They go into cells or away from them and out into the air. The direction of diffusion depends upon the environmental conditions and the requirements of the plant. Say, for example, at night, when there is no photosynthesis occurring, carbon dioxide eliminated is the major exchange activity going on. Whereas during the day, carbon dioxide generated during respiration is used up for photosynthesis. Hence, there is no carbon dioxide released. Instead, oxygen release is the major event at that time. One thing you must remember that plants carry out both photosynthesis and respiration. During daytime, they do both the processes, whereas at night, they do only respiration. Animals have evolved different organs for the uptake of oxygen from the environment and for getting rid of carbon dioxide produced during respiration. Terrestrial animals can breathe oxygen present in atmosphere, but animals that live in water need to use the oxygen dissolved in water. Since the amount of dissolved oxygen is fairly low as compared to amount of oxygen in air, the rate of breathing in aquatic animals is much faster than that is seen in terrestrial organisms. In case of fishes, they take in water through their mouths and force it past the gills where the dissolved oxygen is taken up by blood. The gills are richly supplied with blood vessels to carry out this process. Respiration in humans. The main organs of the respiratory system are nostrils, nasal cavity, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, lungs, and diaphragm. In human beings, air is taken into the body through the nostrils. The air passing through the nostrils is filtered by fine hairs that are present inside the passage. The passage is also lined with mucus, which helps in this process. That's why you are often advised not to breathe through your mouth, because this mucus and the hair present inside the nostrils help in filtering the air that is entering through our nose. From here, the air passes through the throat and into the lungs. Rings of cartilage are present in the throat. These ensure that the air passage does not collapse. The bronchi divides into smaller tubes called bronchioles, which ends in tiny air sacs called alveoli. The alveoli is supplied with blood vessels through which exchange of gases takes place. The alveoli helps to increase the surface area for exchange of gases. In other words, it is in the alveoli that gaseous exchange take place. The human lungs have been designed to maximum the exchange of gases. There are millions of alveoli in the lungs. The presence of millions of alveoli in the lungs provide a very large area for the exchange of gases, and the availability of large surface area maximizes this exchange of gases. So, the oxygen of air diffuses out from the alveoli walls into the blood. The oxygen is carried by blood to all parts of the body through red pigment hemoglobin. As blood passes through the tissues of body, oxygen present in it diffuses into the cell, and it combines with digested food to release energy. During the process, carbon dioxide is produced as a waste product and it diffuses into the blood. Now, this carbon dioxide is carried by blood back to the lungs from where it diffuses into the alveoli. And during the contraction movement of chest, carbon dioxide is pushed from the alveoli of the lungs into the trachea, then nostrils, and then out of the body into air. In this way, the process of gaseous exchange is completed in the human respiratory system. Please note that during the breathing cycle, when air is taken in, that is inhaled, or exhaled, the lungs always contain a certain residual volume of air so that there is sufficient time for oxygen to be absorbed into the blood and for carbon dioxide to be released from the blood. Another point to be noted is that carbon dioxide is more soluble in water than oxygen. So, it is mostly transported in the dissolved form in our blood. With this, we have completed the topic of respiration. In my next video, I shall take up the topic of transportation. Till then, enjoy learning.